Welcome back to the Stone Age Workshop series. So far, I have made fire using friction, fungus and flint, tanned raw deer hides using fat, smoke and tree bark, made a set of lightweight clothes and made a stone axe. In this episode, I will rebuild the oldest known house in Britain from over 10,000 years ago using wood, tree roots, bracken, bark, clay and deer hides, as I prepare to cross the Irish Sea in a DIY Stone Age boat. The remains of the oldest known house in Britain were discovered at Starcar in Yorkshire. It was a circular post-built structure of around 3.5 metres in diameter, built beside a lake with layers of moss and reeds on the floor for insulation. It would most likely have been covered with reeds or grasses to create a simple cone-shaped thatch roof. The evidence suggests it was repaired and reused for centuries, possibly for as long as 500 years. For the timber frame, I will use the sweet chestnut poles felled in a previous episode. This sweet chestnut comes from coppice woodland, where trees are harvested on rotation while the root systems are left alive. Coppiced trees can live for many hundreds of years, often far longer than non-coppiced trees. Although there's no direct evidence of a ladder at Star Car, it's very likely that some form of ladder or climbing aid was used, based on the joinery skills they had and evidence from comparable sites of a similar age. Tree roots, especially from spruce and birch trees, are strong, flexible, and durable, making excellent lashings that have been used by our ancestors for tens of thousands of years. Although the bark can be left on, it's best removed, as it contains sugars and holds moisture which can cause the roots to decay faster. Soaking them in water makes them easier to peel and split. For parts of the house, I will be using rhododendron wood. Rhododendron is a non-native invasive species in these woodlands and can easily take over if left unmanaged. Although the flowers are beautiful, most parts of the plant contain toxins, so deer, who eat most other things here with great enthusiasm, generally avoid it. Using it here helps slow its spread and puts the wood to use. While planning this series about the Stone Age, I knew I wanted to try and record a time-lapse video showing how the woodland changes through the year. The main challenge was finding a way to mount my camera in exactly the same place for every shot. Bambu Lab have kindly sponsored this video, and I used their X1 carbon printer to try and solve this challenge. I designed simple tree mounts to fit my iPhone using Onshape. I included a few organic surface features to help them blend into the trees, exported the 3D model, and it was time to print. The 3D printer is beautifully made with a precise glass and metal structure, a clear display, and an easy-to-use touchscreen interface. It is fantastic for prototyping ideas quickly and making things that simply don't exist anywhere else. You can also head over to MakerWorld, which is the most active 3D printing platform out there. It is full of ready-to-print models from makers all over the world for a massive array of applications. There is a huge range of filaments available, all the way from rubber-like filaments for flexible parts to rigid carbon fiber reinforced ones for engineering parts. I chose a wood-based PLA filament for the tree mounts, which is a combination of PLA, made from renewable resources like cornstarch and sugarcane, and wood fibers, which give the surface a natural matte texture. I chose the dark rosewood colour as it blends well with the bark of the Douglas fir trees where most of them will be attached. The filament is loaded into the AMS, which can hold up to 4 filaments and can even switch mid-print. I sent the 3D model to Bambu Studio, laid out the mounts in a grid pattern on the print plate, selected the filament in the AMS, and off it went. I attached the mounts to 10 trees using corrosion-resistant screws that will be removed at the end of the project. They were very easy to install, however, trees move in the wind, grow upwards and outwards, and can twist as they grow, so I didn't know how well this would work. But at the end of the episode, I'll share the time-lapse video of the woodland and this house build through the seasons. Bracken has been used for thatch and bedding for many thousands of years and was still being used regularly into the 19th and early 20th centuries. Many houses in the area still have commoners' rights which allow bracken to be harvested from the forest. It's rarely used today, largely because more durable thatching materials like water reed became common, so it's now plentiful in these woodlands. Bracken is also poisonous when ingested, which means deer tend to leave it alone. The roofs of early human shelters were often designed to let smoke slowly filter out through the thatch rather than escape through a chimney. Most thatch materials are porous enough to release smoke while keeping rain out, and the oxygen poor air near the roof made fires less likely than you might expect. Spruce branches were used as floor coverings by many Stone Age cultures and are still used today by the Sami people in northern Europe. A nearby Norway spruce woodland was recently felled for timber, so there were plenty of cuttings to choose from. The branches help insulate against the cold ground and create an air gap beneath anything placed on top, which helps disperse dampness and preserve the upper layers. The needles smell amazing and also help deter pests. The floor covering will be replaced when needed. It is very likely that animal hides would have been used as door coverings at Star Car. This area in the southeast of England has a very high population of deer, so it's managed by local rangers. The venison is sold, and the hides used in this series would otherwise have gone to waste. Being inside this house is absolute bliss, with the smell of the spruce branches, the warmth of the fire, and the thick bracken all around. It's quiet, comfortable, and cosy. The perfect shelter for surviving a cold British winter both now or 10,000 years ago. Here is the time lapse of the woodland changing and the house being built through the seasons. A massive thank you to Bamboo Lab for supporting the idea behind this Stone Age series. If you have an idea of your own, they have announced a Let's Make It Fund, a massive initiative to fund the most ambitious projects out there, with up to $500,000 in support. I have included links in the description where you can buy a 3D printer or submit your project idea. Let's see what you can make. In the upcoming episodes, I will make the weapons, equipment, food, and the boat that I will need for my attempt to cross the Irish Sea.